Hi, I'm Virginia from Right Clinic, and here with me today is Ash. Thank you for being here today, Ash.
Hi, Virginia. Thank you so much for inviting me to your podcast.
Thank you. So, let's start with the first question. What do you do, and how did you get into it?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. How did I get into it, and what do I do? So I'm currently the clinical content lead at HeliosX. HeliosX is a direct-to-consumer health tech company. We have over 5 brands that serve people in the UK and US, and potentially in Europe. And the way I got into it was actually posting on LinkedIn. So I was posting content on LinkedIn about things that I was interested in and some things I was curious about. For example, the future trends of health tech and where I thought AI was going in terms of healthcare. And I was getting some traction, not much, but I was posting quite consistently. And I saw this job advertisement on being posted on one of the boards. Reached out and said, this is what I've done. This is like some of the posts that I've had on my LinkedIn profile. Would it be a match? And then basically things just happened from there. So it's quite serendipitous. But I felt like posting online really increased my surface area for luck. I think it was a really good way for me to announce who I was and announce my opinions. So that's how I got started, basically.
Great. So, how long have you been doing that for?
So I've been doing that for nearly a year now.
Amazing. And how does that differ to what you were doing before?
Yeah, so my background is that I'm a medical doctor by background. I did my training in the East Midlands, and I was particularly interested in, funnily enough, orthopedics. And I think during COVID, I started to write online. Was using Medium actually. I was getting fed up of watching Netflix during COVID because we were all locked down and there was nothing to do. So I was basically got in front of my computer and started writing about things I was really curious about, like um, mathematics and science and the interrelation between the two, and just things I've always been thinking about but never really had the time to write about. And what I found was I really enjoyed it. I really love writing. I was thinking about ideas during my off days or during days that I was at work, and I thought I'm just going to carry on with this and see where it goes. And so I kept posting online, kept posting my thoughts on my Substack and my Medium blog, and things just snowballed. To be fair, I was pretty consistent with it, and it's just surprising. Like I would have never thought that I would have been in this position, but it's been really surprising. But yeah, it's been really fantastic actually.
So, what are the highlights that you're experiencing now that you found unexpected? So, are you working from home now? Do you have flexible hours? And what is your lifestyle like compared to what it was before?
Yeah, so I mostly work from home and then sometimes go into the office maybe once a week or twice a week in London. And I really like the fact that I can work from home or in a coffee shop and changing up environments. I think that's really important. Sometimes you can get cabin fever, and it's almost like you're plugging into the matrix when you're uploading on Slack. So I do actually like to see people in the flesh, which is pretty rare for like a quote unquote writer who we're supposedly quite stereotypically isolating and introverted, but I do actually like seeing people. So I do like co-working spaces.
Amazing. So, if you could turn back time, what would you do differently?
That's a good question. What would I do differently? You know what? I don't think I do anything particularly different. I'd say when you start posting online, I'd say it's really important to have one, no expectations about where this could lead to, because I think the higher your expectations are, I think the more disappointed you might be. And so I went into that with zero expectations. Like this was all completely serendipitous for me. Um, I think that's important part of the process. I think secondly, it's important to when you do actually write online to have an opinion, and be bold enough and be courageous enough to voice that opinion. I think a lot of people shy from what they really think, and they use like AI to essentially placate their own voice. But what I've learned is that people are really out there, and they want to hear what you have to say, and so because of that, it's important to add something new to your opinion, add something new to the dialogue. Everyone's heard most of the arguments already, but if you can offer something new and fresh and offer a new insight or perspective, I think you really start to stand out. I'm not saying that I stood out, but I'm just saying that I was basically, maybe had a bit more courage to just say what I felt. I think finally, what I would do differently perhaps is, no, I think I'm pretty happy to be honest. I think the way things turned out was pretty good. So yeah, I wouldn't really change anything, to be honest.
That's great. So what would be your kind of top tips for people who are trying to get to where you are and maybe try and build the network that you have?
Yeah, I mean, just a caveat. I think there are a lot of people that have a lot higher network than I do, and are in places that are a lot higher than I am. So I think I'm like very mid tier probably. But what I would say is that start a Substack or newsletter and start writing. First of all, second of all, start posting on LinkedIn, but start posting stuff that's actually valuable and educational, and something that's you're curious about. I think the problem with LinkedIn is that sometimes I find people post selfies or pictures of themselves, and that's not what I'm on the platform for. I'm on the platform to actually learn something new, and I think when you start doing that, I think it's an indication that perhaps you're posting for engagement and not posting because you want the right people to read what you're thinking about. If you think about it like a lead magnet, you're not writing for the masses, you're writing for those one or two people that can really have an influence on your career. So write for a particular type of person. Don't write just for your average Joe blogs, basically, is what I'm saying. Write for one or two people that really have the credibility and the influence to look at your ideas and assess them for what they are. I think finally, just experiment. I think life is basically an experiment. Like, some things are going to go really well, some things are going to do really poorly, and that's okay. I think A/B testing is probably the way to go in most of this content creation game. I think the most prolific creators do that, and even the most prolific writers. So I'd say don't get too hung up on engagement or likes or impressions. That's not important at all. I think the fact that you're posting regularly and consistently, and airing your opinions and airing what you really believe and not having a mask on, is the most important thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think everything that you've said, I would agree with. And I agree with experimenting and also writing for a particular type of person, because I've definitely found if I've tried to stray too far away from what I normally write about, it just doesn't get the same traction, or it attracts a completely different audience.
Yeah.
So if you're currently posting about something and it's not really working for you, then think about writing about something else and see if that works, if that can change the kind of direction that your content is going in and who it can attract. So thank you for sharing those top tips. So what's next on the horizon for you? What's your kind of future plan?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think for me, I'm just going to be doing more of the same, following my curiosity and seeing where that leads me. I've looked at some of the writers on Twitter, for example, on the internet, that have created some really fantastic essays, and I think more about me producing essays in my own spare time. I think that's where I'm really passionate about things that I'm thinking about at the moment, and then writing about them. So I think hopefully in the next couple of weeks or in the next couple of weekends, will just be me fleshing out my ideas and then posting them online and seeing what happens.
Amazing. So if you could sum up what kind of writing you're doing right now, that would be really helpful for the audience. So do you do kind of more regulatory type writing where you're checking for accuracy and getting approvals, or are you doing more kind of marketing and copywriting, kind of the commercial side?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So for me, at the moment, I'm doing a lot of the evidence-based fact checking on blogs, and making sure that they're all research backed and the quotes that we're using are all evidence based. Going through papers and scientific studies and like really crawling through the data. So I think one thing that does need to be said is that I think there's a real need for clinicians to actually understand statistics and biostatistics. I think it's probably one of the most underrated skills. And one of the most important skills I learned in medical school was how to read a paper, how to critically appraise a paper, understanding what the p-values are, understanding what the confidence intervals are, and really assessing and going through that, because that skill has proved probably one of the most important skills I have as a medical writer, essentially. On top of that, I also do sometimes I delve into the marketing and the copy for the marketing side, and then making sure that that's all evidence-based and fact-checked and clinically sound, which I really enjoy. It's part of my repertoire, something I'm strong at. So yeah, I really enjoy it.
Amazing. So thank you so much for sharing all of that. I do agree that, they are kind of interlinked. So if you are even writing some kind of copy or working in the marketing space, you still have to check that it's evidence-based. It might not be to the same degree as like a regulatory medical writer who's really just, doing clinical trials and analysis and looking at the statistics, like you said, but there's still that kind of degree, that kind of element that you still have to do for any type of medical writing. So
yeah,
it's really good to highlight that, and also nice to hear that you can flex between the two depending on the type of work and the clients that you get. So that was really helpful and insightful, and I hope the audience listening or watching, I hope you really enjoyed this episode, and I'm sure we'll be hearing more from Ash in future. So thank you so
Virginia.
much.
Thank you.